Welcome to episode 25 of the LilyList Podcast, where our goal is to be a handbook for the living. This week, we sit down with Tiffany Speax, a storyteller, creator, and resilient spirit who has worn many hats: filmmaker, educator, mother, and community leader. Tiffany shares an honest and compelling journey through her childhood in North Carolina, her career in TV and film production, the challenges of balancing creative ambitions with family life, and ultimately finding herself again. This conversation is filled with raw insights, hard-earned wisdom, and an inspiring perspective on self-discovery and legacy. If you've ever struggled with identity, expectations, or the weight of responsibility, this episode is for you. As always, visit LilyList.com for more information on the podcast and platform. You can also contact us from the website if you have questions or ideas for people or topics you'd like to see us cover in the future. If you'd like to support the work of LilyList, you can donate using the links in the description, and if you find these conversations meaningful, we thank you for liking, following, sharing, or subscribing wherever you listen. Tiffany Speax, Welcome to the LilyList Podcast. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
I've been on the other side of recording for you for some time, but this is the first time of me interviewing you. I can't remember. I think you guys interviewed me once before too, but
we did.
I've probably blocked that out at this point.
We did.
So there's a lot of things we could talk about, but we like to start at the beginning. So tell me a little bit about where were you born, where'd you grow up, and what were things like early years, up to 10 or 12 years old?
Okay. I was born in Kenston, North Carolina. Very country, dirt roads. My childhood, I can say, was wonderful. I got to experience the lifestyle of eating out of the garden, playing with all of my cousins, and no parent supervision. And if you get hurt, you figure it out. I don't know where my parents were, but because it's like we was taking care of ourselves. I was living in Greensboro. My parents moved to Greensboro from Kenston when I was really young, but we went back home. We call it home. We went back home so many times during the year. So that's where my memory is like based in Kenston. But when I was around, I think like 5 or 6, people from my family from Kenston started migrating to Greensboro. And so my cousins came to Greensboro. So I grew up around my cousins. I have a sister. She's 15 months older than me. We used to always get mistaken as twins. And to make it worse, my mother would dress us alike. I thought it was cool. My sister hated it. So I just, I liked to think of myself as a twin, even though we wasn't, but she hated it. My parents, I grew up in a 2-parent home. I never remember wanting for anything. As I got older, I realized that it was a privilege, but I didn't know it then. I thought everyone had 2 parents in their household. I think I was around 12, 13 when I realized majority of my friends did not. Yeah. And that was a weird experience when my father sat down and was telling me about fathers not being in the home. But yeah, for me, I wasn't a spoiled brat, but I got whoopings. My father made sure that we was disciplined, but at the same time, like I said before, I didn't want for anything. I just had to be a good child, disciplined on the way we eat, disciplined on the way we kept the house clean. So yeah, I think it was. I have no complaints about, and your eyes kind of open up to the world at 12. I remember my father telling me about my male friends. I had a lot of male friends because I was a tomboy. I always wanted to compete against boys at that time. And then it switched because they was beating me and everything. But he taught me how to tie a tie. And I was like, why is he teaching me how to tie a tie? And he told me it's going to come a time when you have to teach your male friends how to tie a tie because their father is not in the home.
Oh, well.
And he was right. My 8th grade, it was the fire performance at Jamestown Middle School in Jamestown. My friends, some male friends came in and their tie was jacked up. It was just like, it was no formation. And I taught off, I think it was like 4 or 5. I taught them how to tie a tie that day. And I realized how privileged I was at that point when I was teaching them. I was a girl teaching them how to tie a tie because they didn't have a male in their household to teach them how to tie a tie. So, yeah.
And have YouTube to teach them.
You just, they was looking really ridiculous with that tie. And I do think because I had that, my father in my home, a lot of my male friends, they kind of hung around more at my house, around my house for my dad's, I guess, a connection with a male figure. Yeah. Now that I look back at it, I always told people I only have male friends, but now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that they was around because my dad was kind of like the neighborhood dad. Yeah.
Were you, when you started school, were you in the country or were you in Greensboro when you started like primary school?
I was here in Greensboro.
Okay.
When I started school. And yeah, I just didn't like school, but I liked the social aspect of school, but I didn't like the structure of school. Yeah. That it was here.
Yeah. And when you think about that, so we went up to kind of that 8th grade and then, going into high school. You mentioned your father obviously having a big impact on you and kind of how you viewed the world and him being strict but loving, I would say.
Yeah.
Were there other people? You mentioned your older sister who didn't like being dressed like a twin. Were there other people that kind of impacted your view of the world as you were coming up? And by view of the world, I mean where you decided to kind of start focusing as you got into that eighth grade high school. Where were your thoughts? Where were you thinking about going? And who kind of impacted that as you came up?
I could say my mom she was very stern as well. And she was sterner than my father. I would rather my father discipline me any day than my mom. I was scared of her. But my mother was so ladylike. She was modeling back in the day. And I would always look at her putting on her makeup and we'll go to her fashion shows. And so I was just like in awe of her. But I remember I was such a tomboy when I was younger. I never thought about makeup or anything like that. But I remember when I started transitioning over to becoming a young lady, my mom kind of took me up under her wing and she would make me shave my underarms and shave my legs. And I hated it. I hated it so much. But I'm happy she did it, but she changed my view of what it was to be. If you have a type of woman to be, she changed me into the type of woman that she wanted me to be, So I can remember shifting to making sure my underarms were shaved. If I wore a sleeveless shirt and my arms went up and my mom seen fuzz up under that, you was gonna get scorned. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it was real serious. Your legs needed to be shaved. Walk up straight. And my sister flawlessly, like she walked to this day, she walks like a model. My sister is very just upright, and to me, she was always the one that had it in my eyes. Through my mom's eyes, I felt like she looked at my sister like she got it. Tiffany, we're going to have to work on her because she is doing whatever she wants to do. She really doesn't care. I wasn't into it. So yeah, I know she reshaped my view of how I am now. I am a late bloomer. It took me time to kind of carry myself in the way she was trying to mold and shape me. But I wonder who I would be if she did do that. But yeah, she is one person that kind of shaped the way I view the world now, as well as my mom, on how to carry myself as a woman.
It's interesting to hear you say that because obviously audio only, so people can't see you, but we met and you are one of the most fashionable, put together people that I know. When you mentioned your mother giving you that feedback, I was like, oh, and she's still carrying it with her, but I wasn't expecting the my sister's really good at it, and it required me to put effort into it. So
yes, because we're only 15 months apart.
yeah.
We both cheered. Me and my sister cheered. And I can remember when we was on a competition squad and we had to wear makeup, and I didn't know anything about makeup. And my sister is like trying to help me do makeup. Fast forward when we was adults and I still kind of wasn't wearing makeup. And I was 23 and we was both working at the mall, and she was a manager at the NARS makeup counter. And she would, when I came in, she'll say, come here. And I go over to her counter and she'll make me up. Oh. Yeah. So that's how I kind of learned how to make myself up. It was between my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So high school, college years. Take me a bit through that. What I'm really interested in is beyond your experience, but now you're going to run into a lot of different people, some that are going to impact you in different ways than when you were younger, when people obviously outside the family. Mm-hmm. But so were you a wild child, or did the sort of upbringing keep you in line, or how did that work out?
Yes, I was considered the wild child because I rebelled against the school that I was going to. I would always try to check myself out of school and enroll into another school, and I would get caught in high school, or I would skip school. But mind you, at the same time, I was a track runner, really good in track, a state track runner, and I was a cheerleader. Yeah. So it was trying to balance having that reputation, but I didn't really want to be in school. I liked running track and competing, but I didn't like the school environment.
I just want to, sorry to interrupt you, but to me, that's like classic case. Did you ever get diagnosed with ADD or anything? Because that, like liking that physical activity, that outlet, but not liking being stuck in school sounds just like ADD or ADHD.
I diagnosed myself, but back then we didn't get diagnosed. And so I had a lot of energy. Yeah. So, but my mama would tell me go outside and play. Yeah. So I would just be outside playing until she did the porch light. So I was outside the whole time. But as I became an adult, I definitely have something going on, but it's manageable. But so I found another outlet, which was TV production in my 11th grade year in high school. And that really put me on the trajectory of production work, networking, everything that I do now. I have to give homage to my 11th grade TV production teacher, Michael Crenshaw, at Gifford County Schools at the Weaver Education Center. He taught me how to get in front of the camera, to do my news bites. So my senior year, the reason why I had to go to school is because I had a 7:00 morning show to do for Gifford County Schools. And the morning show was all Gifford County Schools. I watched it. It was on Channel 2. You could watch it at home. So I had to be ready to do that. And then my second semester, I became the technical director. So I had to show up at 7:00 in the morning. So that prepared me to manage my life with what I want to do. Like, if it's not what I want it to do, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to be effective. I'm just going to be like, I don't want to do this, and it's not going to put my effort into it. So I'm grateful for that, because that gave me some work ethics, and then I already had the skills of being competitive, but then I had that side of me that was a rebel, and to this day I still, I'm a rebel by heart, by nature. I don't ever feel like someone is just going to tell me that I need to do this for the benefit of whatever. Because I need to figure out, like, are you kidding me? Is this a trick or something? Because in my past, when they told me to start going to kindergarten, they didn't tell me I was going to have to do kindergarten for the whole year. Yeah. I thought I was going for one day. Yeah. And then it ended up. So now I feel like I'm being tricked. So that's how my mind works. Is just like, if you don't give me everything, it's like, are you trying to trick me? Even with the, when the COVID and all of that, like, I was so skeptical of the whole thing. It took me a while to say, okay, like, people are really, really getting sick. Yeah. Let me at least wear a mask. Yeah. My mom was like, can you at least wear the mask? Yeah.
Yeah. So, You mentioned your teacher, and I know about your sort of TV and film production work that you've done. I also, just before we started, we were talking about you and your ex-husband getting together at 19, which would have been right after high school, college. So as we move into that, what does college look like for you? And then, you know, kind of how does that lead into, you were talking about your kids before this. And
Yeah.
so what's that period look like for you? What are the things, looking back at it now, like where do you feel like, you know, this was the right thing? And then where do you feel like, hey, maybe I could have done something a little differently?
So let me start with, okay.
I threw a bunch of you there.
I got it. I got it now. Right before graduation, I think it might have been maybe in February, I started seeing people's information up on the wall in front of the guidance counselor room. They had a board and they would put people's name up there and what college they was going to.
Okay.
And I was like, I haven't applied for a college, nothing. I didn't know. In my mind, I was so in La La Land, Kurt. I really thought I was going to travel the world after college. Because in my mind, my parents had a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
We were just maintaining, you know what I'm saying? But in my mind, I thought that I could go and travel. No, you can't, Tiffany. We don't have no money for that. Yeah. So I'm looking at these people's name on the board and what college they're going to. And I'm like, now I'm in competitive mode. That switched on. I was like, oh, I got to do something. And so I applied for the school that was easiest to get into. And that was Shaw University at the time, HBCU in Raleigh. Somebody was like, yeah, everybody could get into there. And so I went and visited the campus, and they showed me the nice side of the campus, mind you, because it was not nice when I got there. But so I ended up going to Shaw University, and I lasted maybe 2 months. And I quit. And I didn't tell my parents. And I went to, my sister was going to Carolina because my sister, her grades was popping. And she was cheering and running track. Like she did the whole package. Yeah. And so I called her and I was like, I'm coming to your apartment. She was in an apartment. And I just didn't leave for a while. I just kind of just laid on the couch. Like, I don't know what's happening with life. I'm trying to figure it out. And she allowed me to stay, and I went to a couple of parties at Carolina, and that was awesome. And then I was like, reality kicked in, and I remember letting my parents know that I did not want to keep going to Shaw University. And so I came back to Greensboro, and I started going to GTCC. Okay. That didn't work out either, Kurt. It was too many people I knew from high school. Yeah. Because GTCC is right across the street from Ragsdale High School where I graduated. Okay. So a lot of people just went over there. So during this time, I learned that I was great at playing pool, and I never went to class. I was always playing pool, and then we started doing like betting games for pool. Yeah. I was kind of like the girl in the corner that, and I pretend like I couldn't play pool.
The hustler.
Yeah, I started hustling. That's what that's called, that game. Yeah. I started hustling. It was fun. And we had this whole gimmick, and I'll be in the corner pretending like I'm doing my work. And then my homie, he would be like, you could pick anybody in here. And of course, they always picked me in the corner. And we would just rack it up and win, and we'd split the money. And I think I did that for maybe like 2 months straight. I didn't go to class. I would just be in the pool hall. So flunked out of that. So then by this time, my mom is just like, you need to work full time. If you're not going to go to school, then go to work. And so I had started working at the time at MCI, and that was the telephone place. And oh my God, I was in hell. I was being tortured. And so I was like, okay, I have to go to college because this is not for me. And I couldn't get into A&T because I didn't do a course that you had to take to get into A&T. And lo and behold, my cousin, which was a year under me. She was going to A&T, but she couldn't go because she needed a class too. And it was a program that was given at Alamance Community College for those that needed to get a course to go into a 4-year university. And that summer, I took the course, and then I went over to A&T that following fall.
Okay.
That's age 18, because I graduated at 17. Really, I was really young. And so that 17 to 18, my gap year, I call it my gap year, just trying to figure it out. I got into school at 18, and that's when I met my ex-husband.
Okay.
I was at a gas station, and he was like, excuse me, can I pump your gas? It was something like that. And I let him pump my gas, and I was in the car with my friend from high school, my best friend at the time, and she was just like, Tiffany, we know him. And I was like, I don't know this guy. I don't know him. She was like, yes, we do. And so I didn't think anything of it. And fast forward, this kind of like made our relationship like connect. Is because we found out that we was always running track together. I was at all 4 state track meets, because I went to states every 4 years, and he was too. One of his best friends was a guy that took my sister to the prom. So it just, all the connections happened. And so we was all of my 4 years, 5 years in college, we were together. But we was only dating. We dated for like 3 years, and then we started being in a committed relationship.
So did you just happen to bump into him at the gas station, or was he just there to pick up girls by pumping gas for them?
He was there to probably pick up. But I know he said he was coming from the strip club. So that tells you the whole dynamic. But it was okay. Yeah. So he was probably picking up girls. But it took a long time for me to kind of give in. I think I felt comfortable because of our past kind of aligning. So it made me kind of open up. But when I look back now, I really didn't want a boyfriend. Like, I really didn't want a boyfriend. And I kind of think this is why I would always tell my sister, she always kicked me to this day, that she was like, is your boyfriend coming? And I'm like, he's not my boyfriend. We just talk. Like, he's just hanging around. But of course, I think when a man is really liking a woman, his ego is like, nobody else is going to have her. And so I don't want to say he twisted my arm into a relationship, but I can remember when we decided to be in a committed relationship. And so then that lasted for 20 years.
Oh, wow. And did you finish college with him? Okay. Yeah.
I finished college. He did not, because he was on a football scholarship, and I know I was a distraction for him, and he could not maintain a relationship and be on the scholarship at the same time. So after his scholarship ended, he just started working, and I was still in school, and I graduated from college in 2003. And oh God, this is so terrible. We got married that April, and I graduated that May. And then I was like, I had plans to move to Atlanta. So if you get there, I'll see you when you get there, but I'm out. So
really?
It was a whole, like, when I look back at it, it's like, you was not ready to be anybody's wife, Tiffany. You was still selfish. Like, I did not think twice about still moving to Atlanta. And then I think about 4 months later, he made his way down there. Okay. Yeah. So that was that's horrible. If somebody would do that to my son, like, I'm like, you leave her. She is not free. Like, and I moved to Atlanta for a while to pursue my production career. Yeah.
So that ties into that sort of spark that happened in your class to now your working career through college.
Yeah.
When did you have your kids, and how did you balance, or did you balance work and raising a family and all of those sorts of things? How did that piece go?
So I could say that I was a bit delusional, because once I started having my kids, mind you, he had a 10-month-old when we met. So she would come down every summer, and I make sure I had a bedroom for her. So my mind was already in a nurturing space because he had a child. So she's always had her room when she came to Greensboro to visit because she was from Mississippi. So by the time we moved to Atlanta, I was pursuing video production gigs, and that's when I got pregnant. And my pregnancy was very rare. I was pregnant with twins, and I couldn't carry both of them. I didn't have enough nutrition to carry both of them. Mm-hmm. So the doctors that I was at in Atlanta didn't know what was happening. They wasn't skilled enough. So my parents literally came to Atlanta, swooped me up, and now I'm back in Greensboro. Wow. And he's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So when I think about it, this is a lot for him emotionally. But my parents really wasn't thinking about him, and I'm not thinking about him. So I don't really know how he was feeling during this time. Swooped me back to Greensboro. And at this point in time, I'm at a specialist. So I'm not going back to Atlanta. Yeah. So now we're moving back. So now I'm like, whenever you get back, you know. So I'm with my parents, and I'm on bed rest. And so at first it was in my mind that I was going to still have the twins. But what happened was my son, his name is Sir, he was like, I don't have enough to maintain stability in this womb. So he literally absorbed, and it's called a vanishing twin. I've heard of that. Yeah. So he absorbed all the nutrients from the other, and you could watch it. I mean, you see, like when they give you the ultrasound, you see it like going into, and he's a weird one too, to this day. I'm like, you got two different personalities, but his beginnings were very interesting. And so making it through that situation, really, I was paranoid. I changed. Like I was not the same person. I was not adventurous. I was not spontaneous. I was a mom, and I was locked into making sure that this child don't die. Like that was my main goal. I was married, yes, and I did the motherly duties, but my main thing was on my oldest, making sure he lived. Outside of, after he was born, I was still like that. I was always paranoid. No, you can't go spend the night here. No, like you're going to be with me. I don't care. And when I look back, I see how that could the household, the marriage could not be a marriage because I was not focused on my husband at all. I was really focused on my son. Yeah. And then on top of that, I became a school teacher. And so now I'm focused on my students in this classroom that they live in poverty. So now I'm trying to save them. Yeah. I'm doing fundraisers around Christmas every year so they can have a good Christmas. And this is when I think about it, all this energy is going into service. And I'm not serving myself at all. And I want to go, okay, so I'm in my 20s at that point in time. By the time I got 40, I was burnt out. Yeah. But this is why I got burnt out. Yeah. So I am like dealing with the community, trying to heal the world. Thought I could do that. And then at the same time, focus on my son. I started getting heart palpitations at the age of 25, 26. But it would be every time I would walk into the school building to go to work.
Stress.
I would have an anxiety attack. And I went to the doctor and they put me on a heart monitor. I had to walk around with like a heart monitor in my pocket, and it just give me the readings. And then I have to go back to the doctor and they give me the results. And it was literally every time I would go to work, that would happen. So after being a school teacher for about 6-7 years, I guess I was like 29-ish or 30. I quit. I resigned. And that was the best feeling ever of walking out of that school building, because I was trying to change the infrastructure of the way we was teaching. I was trying to change so much. I was implementing after school programs to try to change the mindset of the kids, and not realizing that you're going against a whole system, Tiffany. You're one person. Not going to be able to do that. And so this is how the film program started. Is one of my colleagues, his best friend was a filmmaker, and he was looking for some actresses. And my minor in college was theater. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. Because I had already had this dare from my kids. I would tell them that they could be anything you want to be when you grow up, da 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 da. And one of the students said, what are you wanting to be? And I was like, I wanted to like do film and production work, you know? And they was like, if you're not doing what you want to do, then how are you going to tell us to do? And I was like, hey, that makes sense. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. So when the guy came along needing an actor, I needed to present them a movie that I was in. That was my goal when I started acting with the independent filmmakers in Greensboro. And so did that, showed the film to my students. And then after that, the guy, his name is Larry Wright. He was actually been on the show one time, and he was like, hey, I got all the equipment. You're a teacher. You know how to put together a lesson plan. We should do a film program downtown Greensboro. So in 2013, that's when we did the film program, and I started creating my own business. Mm-hmm. That was not good for my household. Yeah. And mind you, before I got into the film program, I was writing plays for a production, and my sister was doing promotion, and we would put these plays on at the Caroline Theater downtown. So that took a lot of work too. And I'm trying to maintain a household of, at this now is 1, 2, 3. I went from 1 child to 3 children by age 31 because my ex-husband's daughter moved in with us, and then I got pregnant with my youngest. So we went from 1 child to 3 and a dog named Trina. I didn't manage it very, very well, Kurt. I did not. I still wanted to do my art, and I was going to do that. And I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom at the same time. This is where I say I was the delusional part, because I would find jobs that would allow me to appear like I was a stay-at-home mom to my kids, but I wasn't. I was still working. It would be, I would do teaching at GTCC. I would have a 2-hour class to teach from 8 to 9, and then 11 to 12, and then I would go pick up the kids from school because they never rode the school bus, they never rode the school bus. Do dinner, and then maybe do a night class at GTCC. So, but in their mind, they just now started realizing I was working like when I got 40. I was like, I gotta work, y'all. But I blinded them from that, which wasn't good because it made me stressed out. So when I got burnt out at 40, I just couldn't be a wife anymore. I could barely even be a parent anymore. I didn't have any more energy left to give. And I felt like I was raising everybody but me.
How was your husband? So from the very beginning at the gas station all the way up till you're 40, and I may be speaking out of turn here because I don't know him or how it was, but yeah. Sounds like he had to have quite a commitment.
Oh, he was.
To go through all of these things.
It was all me. Like if he never would have asked for a divorce. He was committed, even though, we both could be assholes at times, but he was a committed asshole, and we clashed. We clashed a lot because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and he wasn't providing that platform for me. And so I would be really nasty at times because I looked at him and kind of compared him to my dad and how he was providing for us growing up. He didn't have a father. Yeah. So he didn't know how to do certain things that I thought a man automatically supposed to knew how to do. I didn't understand time. I didn't understand that you have to learn things. If you don't get it when you're younger from the household that you're being raised in, then how can you have it? We both shouldn't have got married. He wasn't a husband. He didn't know how to be a husband. I knew how to be a wife, but if I don't find a husband to be a wife with, then it's going to cause conflict because I'm going to be looking at him like, what are you doing? But he didn't know. Yeah. And so me being a wife turned into me being a mom to everybody. Yeah. And that is, you can't have that as a woman. We get burnt out. A lot of women lose themselves And that's a part of how we lose ourselves, because we're serving everybody else and we leave ourselves out.
Which in a way, it's almost like, you mentioned you knew how to be a wife, but you knew how to be a caretaker.
I like
and
that.
And you kind of miss there's aspects, at least in this relationship we're speaking about, right? Everybody's experience is different, but there were pieces that almost sort of resentment via projection, right?
Yes. Yes. And when I realized, it was one thing that my father taught me, he would always say this saying, it's better for a man to be on a top of a house with a tin roof, it's something like that, it's out of the Bible, than being inside of the house with a nagging woman. And he would always, if he would say that out loud, and it's all of us in the house, because he's the only male in the house, he would say that. And my mom heard it. Whatever she was saying, she'll shut up. My mom was a very submissive woman when it came to my dad, but my dad was always respectful with how he delivered stuff. It never was like a hurtful delivery. It was always an analogy. And so I realized I was a nagging woman. And then I said, I got to leave, because I don't want to be, I was turning into something I did not want to be.
Yeah. And
that's how I decided to leave. And I so many times that I regretted leaving. I thought because two-parent home is what I dreamed of for my kids. So to break that cycle, because that's what I had growing up, and my mother and father, they cried when I got divorced, and I didn't know until years later that they cried because they tried so hard to break the curse of them being in a single parent home, because both of them was raised in a single parent home in the projects, and that story, that's how they was raised. And so in their mind, they're like, oh my God, we didn't do it, we failed. And when I realized that, I was just like, oh my God, I didn't. This is why you got to talk to your children. I would have chose better. I was just playing. And it turned into responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? It was like I wasn't looking at him. I was like, oh, he could take care of his child. He take care of the child he has now. But I didn't look at him as, let me see how he manages his life. Let me see how he reacts when he is in conflict or turmoil. I didn't look like for a business partner. That's what you should look for when you're looking to get married. You need to look for a business partner. Can this be successful if we come together? What's your weaknesses? What's your strengths? How can we compromise this and compromise that? I didn't do that. It was like I was playing and doing adult things, and it just, responsibility came with it. And so I just fell into a marriage.
And so what was the impact of that? I mean, I'm assuming it's difficult for you and him, but then the kids going through a divorce and everything, how was that managed? How did you and he work together? What was that impact like going through it?
For my oldest, he was 14 at the time. So he would have dreams of like doing some crazy things to his parents, and he was so scared to tell me. He was like, Mom, I keep having a dream that I'm killing you and Dad. And then I was like, babe, that's exactly what is happening. Your life as you know it is death. Is murder. Is something that your reality is no longer. I was like, so you're going to have these emotions. You're mad at both of us. You don't know whose fault it is or whatnot, but your world went from living this way to now mommy's in an apartment and I can't go outside and play because we're in this apartment, So it changed dramatically for him. My youngest, he didn't know he was 7. He realized that we was divorced. He said last year when his dad came in to take him to school in the morning, he said, our parents are divorced. And then he came home from school. He was like, Mom, I just realized you and Dad are not together. And I was like, really? He's 13 now. So he was 11 at the time.
So
he was 11.
Like 4 years after the divorce.
Yep. Yeah. That it clicked because he became aware of what's going on. And I was like, really? I was like, how did you feel? He said, I got sad for like a couple of minutes, but then I was like, I'm well taken care of. Both of them are still in my life. So he was fine with it. And this made me think of all the people that try to stay in the marriage to make it work.
Yeah.
When it's you are better off if you do it. If it's not working and you go to counseling and you see it's not working, go ahead and make that separation, because the kids handle it better at a younger age than when they get older.
Yeah.
So for him, it's nothing. But for my oldest, we really started having deeper conversations about it after he graduated from high school, going into college. You know, we got to sit down and really kind of dig deep. And, you know, I even asked him, do you think you need to go to counseling or whatnot? But he's I guess that's up in the air. He'll choose that whenever he does. But I always tell him that it was a change in his life, dramatic change. And so if you need counseling, then, you know, definitely seek that out. And I hold that in my heart too. It makes me so sad to know that I was the cause of his shaking up, because I don't know that life, because my parents were always together. So I don't know how it feels to go through a separation.
Yeah. How about your ex-husband's daughter? Mm-hmm. It sounds like you all, I mean,
we're
she
very
came
close
up with them. And so are you still close with her? And how did she take it?
Very close. We are so close. I love her so much because we're a lot alike. I instilled a lot of myself in her.
Yeah.
But her response was so amazing because she knows her dad. And she was like, Tiffany, I don't know how you stayed that long. That's what she told me. I was like, wow. And it's because I know when I came up, my dad was so gentle.
Yeah.
So when it came to conflict, it was a conversation.
Yeah.
My ex-husband grew up with, it was 4 boys in all, including him and his mom. So it was a lot of, like a lot of arguing. Yeah. And so that's how he communicated. And I couldn't communicate like that. So I would always shut down, wouldn't say nothing, or say, you're right. And it was the same with Diamond. They would end up arguing back and forth, and I would lock myself in the room. Yeah. So it was a lot of things that I couldn't handle because of the way I was brought up. Yeah. But she would combat it. Like, she was that teenager that she was he got loud at her, and because the discipline aspect was not there with him and her, because she wasn't living with him all from, you know, her birth to 18 years old. She came in at 12. So she came in with her attitude. So they was going at it. And so that was the reason why she was like, I'm surprised you stayed as long as you did, because y'all are so different. And now when me and my ex-husband, we talk, we do understand that we are totally different. We had the conversation at my oldest birthday party. We had a cookout, and his family came, my ex-husband family came, and my family came. And the topic was Tiffany and how she thinks everything is supposed to be delivered on a bed of roses and things of that nature. Because, yeah, I do. I mean, I would like it to. And my mom and dad was like, yeah, that's our fault. And then I love this part of the conversation is Ringo's, that's my ex-husband's that's my ex-husband's name. His mom was like, I would have loved to have a bed of roses because I'm over here all crippled and stuff because I have had a tough life. Yeah. So she wants a bed of roses and she could get the bed of roses. Why not get it? And I was like, thank you. But yeah, so that's why I always say I was kind of delusional, like within the marriage and whatnot, because I really had the way it's supposed to go. I was going to raise my kids, stay at home, cook the meal, go to all the PTA meetings, volunteer in the community. That was the life I had in my mind. And I tried to make it happen, but that wasn't my reality. And that's how I got so just stressed out, and I got sick. I ended up with a autoimmune issue. Around 42 is when I started feeling it. I left my marriage at 40. 42, I started feeling a kind of dis-ease in my body. And I was telling your wife, I don't know if I told you about that, but I got diagnosed, and it was literally like I'm doing this show and I'm hurting. Like all my body parts is hurting. And when I would stand up, I could hardly stand up. but I didn't know what was wrong. But I pushed the doctors to do so many tests on me. I'm like, something is wrong with me. Yeah, but that comes from stress. It was ignited through stress. And usually women get autoimmune issues more so than men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Mm-hmm. I like the spotlight.
That long experience, lessons learned, top 3 lessons learned through everything you just told me. And, going back to childhood up to today. And then out of those lessons learned, where are you today? Where are you going? And how do you use those lessons learned?
My top 3 lessons that I have learned. Number 1, know who you are before you get involved with somebody else. You don't have to know yourself, and you don't have to know everything about yourself, but you need to know what you want and what you don't want, at least, and where you're going with this person. I probably never would get married again, but that was a lesson that I learned. If I had a chance to do it over again as a 20-year-old, I wouldn't get married until I know exactly what I want out of my life or where I want to go with someone. Yeah. The second thing that I learned about me is I love to serve. However, I have to serve myself first. So I learned that if I'm not okay, then I can't give anything to anybody else. Yeah. And the third thing would be, this sounds bad or not? I learned not to care as much about life like that. Like, it's not that serious. Yeah. It's just not that serious. Things that I used to try to go to all the PTA meetings. Why the hell was I trying to go to all the PTA meetings? Like, I'm worried about what people are going to think. What am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish by going to all the PTA meetings? I don't know what I was trying to accomplish I went to every single one of my oldest field trips. Mm-hmm. And now he'd be like, you did? Like, he doesn't even remember. So it's like certain things that we hold so much value in, it doesn't matter. And so going forward in my life, I don't take things as serious at all. And I'm not afraid to say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Yeah. I don't. And one thing for certain that I do know is that I'm a person that I like to try. I don't mind trying and failing. It doesn't make me feel any more or less than when I fail at a project. I'm going to try everything that I want to, because why not? Yeah. I have nothing but time, and as long as I'm breathing, if I find something that I want to try, I'm going to try it. If it's intriguing, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to stay curious, about life. And hopefully it just works out for me.
So that's as you think about it now. So what I kind of heard there is that first one about understanding self, taking care of yourself, and then expectations need to be managed, right? Mm-hmm. Expectation versus reality, because trying to live up to expectations with the reality of putting yourself in the hospital is not worthwhile, right? It's not a good way to spend the time. So if we look at the time, you're in very good physical and mental health right now, and we all know that we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Right.
But having said that, if things play out the way that we expect, you've still got some time left. So when you think about those things, your experiences, the learnings, and as you apply them going forward, what is legacy to you? How are you using those things you learn to inform as you go forward, to guide as you go forward? And what do you want to leave behind as a legacy to your children and others who you care about? Or you can also say you don't think about it that way because every day is its own thing, but that's...
that thought crossed my mind because Kurt, this is so weird because I really feel like I am 19 all over again.
Oh, wow.
Because I am on the edge of only taking care of me. Oh. I've never experienced that as an adult.
Yeah.
I've always taken care of other people. So now I have this 13-year-old that still lives with me, but at the same time, he's like really independent. And I have like kind of seen myself letting go of making sure his dinners are prepared every day. Like sometimes you just gonna have to get up and you have to fend for yourself. And so now I'm discovering who I am without taking care of somebody else. So at age 50 is when he graduates.
Yeah.
So I don't know who that lady is at age 50 with no responsibility, because even though, as a mom, you're still going to care for them or whatnot. But I have boys, and I'm not going to be attached to them, and that because it doesn't benefit them in no way for this world to become a man for me to be like so attached. And I am setting up like funding for them to get on their feet. So when they do get to after college, that they have something to settle in and then climb up the ladder. I don't want them to have to climb, all the way down from the bottom. Yeah. So I'm setting up something, but if they manage it, that's up to them. That's all I'm going to give to you. But so I say that to say is I don't know what is happening after 50 for me. So for me to think about the legacy, all I can say is I want them to have financial stability. I don't want and financial literacy. I do know I want that to be a part of legacy. And I'm just now learning about financial literacy. Yeah. So those main two things, integrity and morals, that I've already instilled into them. They understand that they need to be productive humans. I don't care if you just go out there and at least serve a lunch to the homeless. Like, don't forget about community, because wherever you live and you look up, for me, when I look around in my community, I need to see that I helped in this type of way, because this is where I lived and I honor where the atmosphere that I'm in. So that legacy, I hope that I will leave to them, to honor your community. But other than that, they got it, they're on their own. But Kurt, when I tell you, I'm so excited about going into life without any responsibility but myself. I don't know what to do with myself when I think about it.
You can't hang on to yourself. You don't have to try not to hang on to yourself. It can't be done. And that is salvation. The most important thing for anyone to realize is that you and every person you see will soon be dead.